Hi everyone, and welcome back. In this video we're going to expand on some of the objects that we were using in our Node-RED dashboard. So let's get started. First, let me get out of your way and let's open a web browser and get back into our Node-RED workspace here. This is where we left off, where we were able to show the temperature as just a text in our Node-RED dashboard, and that was working great. What if we want to show this graphically? Let's do that. So what I'll do is here on the left-hand side, I will scroll down to our dashboard section and let me grab a gauge object, okay, or a gauge node rather. Drag and drop that in, and we'll double click on it to edit it. Now for the group, this is IDEC Automation Dashboard and the Monitor read-only section, if you will. That's fine for now. I'm going to leave that alone. We will go through and add new UI groups a little later, but for now I'll leave it in that same section. For size, I can leave it at automatic. For type, there's a few different types, and you can play around with these. I'm going to leave this at gauge for now. For the label, this is just whatever I want to show as the label. Maybe this is, for example, chamber temperature, or we'll leave it at temperature since that's what we use for the other one, and it's the same thing. So we'll just call it temperature. I'm going to skip over this value format for a minute. We'll come back and fill that in at the end. For units, maybe I'll say degrees F. For the range, maybe I show that between, say, 70 degrees and 90 degrees. And then you can specify this color gradient here if you want to. And let's say 70 to 80, and then 85 to 90. 85. All right. All right, now for this value format. So what this is saying is the gauge needs just the value, right? Just like what we did for our temperature text a little bit ago, we need to split out the value to send to this node in order to display it correctly. So to do that, what we need to do is come inside those two sets of squigglies, and we'll delete where it says value, and we'll type in message, or MSG dot payload, and remember to split the temperature out. We just need to put in dot temperature. So that'll split out the temperature value. Okay, I'm good with this. We click done, and let's go ahead and connect the MQTT input node to this gauge. And we can see, if you're not in the dashboard section in Node-RED, we can go ahead and get there so we can look at this. If you go over to the top right, click on that triangle drop down and select dashboard. Now what we can see is, since we've got a couple of different dashboard nodes in there, as we hover over either one in the layout section of our dashboard, over here on the right, we can see the node highlighted in the flow workspace in orange dashed lines. Okay. That can be helpful if you've got a lot of nodes on one flow, so it can help you understand which one you're working with. This can also allow you to reorder things in a section, and we'll show you that in a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and click on deploy, and it was successfully deployed. Let's go to our dashboard, and there we are. So in the monitor read-only section, I'm showing the temperature as a gauge. I'm also showing it as that text node. Okay. All right, so far so good. Let's go back to our Node-RED workspace. Okay, fantastic. Now let's go ahead and bring in something else. Maybe we want to show the temperature as a trend chart. So let's do that. So again, over here on the left in the dashboard area of my nodes, I'll go grab a chart. Okay. And let me double click on this to edit the properties. Now in this case, I am going to put this in a different group, not in the monitor group, but I'm going to make another group called temperature trend, and I'm going to put it in there. So to do that, if I just click here anywhere in this white space besides group, I can go down and add a new UI group. That's what I want to do. And then click on the pencil. Okay. Again, I still want this in the IDEC Automation Dashboard tab, so everything's still on one screen, but I want to put this in a different section. So what I can do is come in here and put in the name that I want this section to be. Maybe this is temperature trend, for example. All right. Now go ahead and come down and configure this node. The size automatic is fine. The label, maybe I want it to say temperature, for example. As far as the type, I can choose between line chart, bar chart, pie chart, polar area chart, or radar chart. I'll leave it at a line chart. I can specify the time window that it's going to show. Maybe I want to show the last, say, 15 minutes, for example. My x-axis label, I can choose the format that I want. Okay. I'm going to set this just as automatic. For my y-axis, maybe I'll set that between 70 and 90, since that's what we set the gauge to. Okay, I'm good with that. Click Done. All right. Now, if we go and connect these two things together, the MQTT input node down to here, are we going to get what we want? We're not. And the reason being is, again, we want the temperature value out of here. If we connect this straight to this MQTT input node, this particular node, the chart node, there's not a way for me to split out within here just the temperature value. All I'm doing here is configuring this particular node as far as how I want it to look and what group I want to show it in. I don't have an option to split out the temperature value. So I've got to do that externally. No big deal. We can do that. So I don't want this connected straight to this MQTT input node. So what I want to do is, if you've already connected it, click on that line and hit delete. Okay. All right. And if you accidentally clicked on a couple other things and deleted them, you can use Control Z to undo that. Okay. So just so you know that. All right. So what I want to do is I need to put in some sort of a function so I can split out that temperature data. Okay. So if I go to my function section here in my nodes, I've got a whole bunch of different things. I've got a function node where I can write JavaScript, which we could do that to split this out, but there's an easier way. And the easier way to do it is with this change node. Okay. So I'm going to grab a change node, drop it in, and I'm going to double click on it to edit it. And what I want to do is I want to set the message payload. And remember, that is that entire JSON object that shows the temperature, right? Shows the squiggly, temperature, colon, the value, and then the end squiggly. What I want to do is change that to message, MSG, dot payload, dot temperature. Okay. This is just like what we did for the temperature text and the temperature gauge, right? We split from the payload, we split out and grabbed the temperature value. And that's what this will do for us. Okay. All right. If I click Done, now I can go and connect my MQTT input node to this little switch node, or change node rather. And I can connect the change node to my little temperature trend chart. Okay, I'm good with that. Now, if we come over here in the dashboard section of Node-RED, and again, if you're not there, click the triangle drop down and dashboard. Now we're going to see that we've got a couple of different sections, or a couple different groups in our dashboard. We've got the monitor read-only section, and we've got the temperature trend section, right? All right, let's click on deploy, and let's go to our Node-RED dashboard. And if we wait just a little bit, we'll see this temperature starting to be plotted. So we've still got the monitor read-only section with our temperature gauge and our temperature text nodes. In our temperature trend section, easy for me to say, right? We are showing, as a scale between 70 and 90, we're showing that temperature being plotted. Okay. And you can see you can scroll over this, the line, and get the value and the time at any point on it. Okay, and again, we had set this up to go for 15 minutes. So that's what I will do. Okay, we'll continually have a 15-minute window of the temperature. Okay. Now, one thing we could do on this particular node is we specified 70 to 90, and if it's going to bounce around between 75 and 80 typically, maybe I want to be able to see that a little better. So what we could do is if we go back into our Node-RED workspace and we double click on that chart node, what we could do is come down and just not specify a y-axis. Okay, just leave that blank. If I click done and then deploy to redeploy that, okay, now on my dashboard it's going to auto scale it for me, okay, as best it can. So now I've got a better visualization of what this temperature is doing. We can see it's bouncing between about 74.5 and 76, so it gives me a little bit of an easier view of that temperature. All right, this is pretty good for this video. We will continue on adding some objects to our dashboard, adding some sections, and we'll actually go back and do a little bit of work in the PLC and send some additional data other than just this temperature data. So thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you on the next video.